Welcome back to Metaphysics Podcast. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into a concept that's pretty mind-blowing to me anyway.
Okay.
It's the idea that each of us has a vortex of well-being.
Ooh.
So imagine this personal energy field that's packed with everything you've ever wanted.
Right.
Love, money, clarity, vibrant health, you name it. It's in there.
It's interesting because this vortex thing, it's not just a metaphor, it's like an actual energy force.
Wow.
And the law of attraction is like its operating system.
That makes sense.
The real question is, are we in sync with our vortex?
Yeah, are we letting ourselves actually receive all the amazing things that we're calling into our lives? Okay, so let's unpack this vortex idea a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Our source material gets pretty creative with the analogies to try to explain it.
Uh-huh.
It's like a cosmic bank vault
Okay.
where all our fortunes are stashed and each of us holds the key.
I like that.
But how do we actually tap into this vault, this vortex of abundance?
Well, it starts with understanding that we are vibrational beings, and this vortex operates on vibes.
So everything.
Everything
Okay.
in the universe, including our thoughts and our emotions, vibrates at a certain frequency.
Right.
And the law of attraction says like attracts like. So if we're fixated on what we lack, the negativity, the complaints,
Yeah.
we're actually pushing ourselves further away from our vortex.
So just wishing for things isn't enough.
Right.
We need to actually align our energy with what we want.
Exactly.
It's like trying to tune into a radio station, you know?
Huh?
The wrong
Oh.
frequency, you just get static.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure we're tuned into our vortex and not just getting a bunch of cosmic static?
The source material really emphasizes 3 steps to manifestation.
Okay.
First, we ask. Our desires are out there in the universe.
Okay.
Second source responds. The universe is always working for us, arranging circumstances to bring us what we want.
And the third step.
This is where I tend to get tripped up.
This is the step that most people struggle with, and it's about chilling out.
Trusting the process, letting go of resistance. It's about aligning with the feeling of already having what we desire, even though it might not be in our physical reality yet.
So it's about faith, believing that what we want is on its way. But how do we cultivate that kind of trust, especially when life is throwing us curveballs? I feel like this is particularly tough for, like, type A personalities.
That's where the idea of becoming a cooperative component comes in.
Okay.
This describes our role in the manifestation process.
Sure.
Recognizing that we have a part to play, not just sitting back passively waiting for things to magically appear.
So we're co-creating with the universe.
Exactly.
I like where this is going. It's empowering to know that I'm not just a bystander in my own life.
You're not. We become a cooperative component by choosing thoughts and feelings that bring us closer to our vortex.
Okay.
The source material highlights the importance of awareness using our emotional state as a guide. And there's a fun analogy about being upstream or downstream. What do you think that might mean?
Okay, I mean, if I'm feeling stressed, anxious, doubtful, that feels like swimming upstream, you know?
Yeah.
Fighting the current,
Yes.
pushing away from my vortex.
And if you're feeling joyful, inspired, grateful, that's downstream, allowing the current to carry you towards your desires.
I love this framework. It's so helpful.
It is.
Instead of judging my emotions, I can use them as a guidance system.
Totally.
It really puts me in the driver's seat.
It does, but it also raises an important question for all of us listening.
Mm-hmm.
What are we giving more of our attention to? The lack of what we desire or the feeling of already having it? Because our energy flows where our attention goes.
This makes sense conceptually, but putting it into practice can be tough. Like, let's say I'm in the middle of a stressful situation. Do I just paste on a smile, pretend everything is fine? That doesn't feel authentic.
It's not about denying our emotions or pretending. It's about being aware of how we're feeling and choosing to move in a more positive direction. Baby steps. So, feeling anxious, take a few deep breaths. Feeling overwhelmed, take a break. Do something that sparks joy. What are some of the things that you do to shift your energy when you're feeling out of alignment?
I'm a big fan of a quick walk outside.
Yeah, me too.
Or putting on some music that makes me want to dance.
Of it.
So it's about finding little ways to nudge myself back into that downstream flow, right?
Exactly. It's about being kind to ourselves and remembering we don't have to do this perfectly. It's a process, a journey of self-discovery. There's another point from the source material that I found really interesting. It talks about the importance of selfishness in manifesting our desires.
Right.
Now, that word can get a bad rap, so I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Yeah, selfishness definitely has some negative connotation.
Sure.
But, thinking about this in the context of Aligning with our vortex.
Hmm.
Maybe it's not about being inconsiderate of others.
Right.
Could it be about recognizing that our own well-being is paramount?
Yes.
Honoring our own desires and dreams and needs?
You hit the nail on the head. It's
Yeah.
about putting ourselves first in a healthy way.
Hmm.
And here's a fascinating point. When we take care of ourselves, when our own cup is full, we can give more to others.
That makes sense.
We're more energized, more compassionate, more present. What resonates with you about this idea of healthy selfishness?
It really resonates because I think a lot of us, especially women, are conditioned to put others' needs before our own.
Yeah.
And we end up feeling depleted,
Mhm.
resentful, and disconnected from our own power. Maybe selfishness is really about reclaiming that power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about redefining selfishness as self-care. Self-love, honoring our unique path and purpose. When we embrace that, we're not only aligning with our own vortex of well-being, but we're also contributing to the collective good. Think about it. When we're happy and fulfilled, we radiate that energy outward, inspiring others to do the same.
I love that. So it's not selfish to prioritize my well-being. It's actually a generous act
Right.
because it allows me to show up more fully for others.
Yes.
And the more people who tap into their own vortex, the more positive energy we're all putting out into the world.
Exactly. And that ripple effect can be incredibly powerful. It is amazing to think about that ripple effect, isn't it? And it kind of brings us back to the practical side of things. We've been talking about this vortex and the power of aligning with it. But how do we actually make that shift from striving to allowing in our daily lives?
Right, because it's so easy to get caught up in the doing, the hustle, always pushing, striving for the next thing. But if I'm hearing you correctly, the source material suggests that the real magic of manifestation is in the being.
Exactly. It's about aligning our energy with what we want instead of trying to force it to happen. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by practicing the art of feeling good.
Okay, this might sound a little too simple, but are you saying that just feeling good can actually help us manifest our desires?
That's exactly what the source material suggests, and it makes sense from an energetic perspective. When we feel good, we vibrate at a higher frequency,
Yeah.
and that high frequency energy acts like a magnet, drawing our desires to us. Think about it like this. You know how certain songs just lift your mood? That's your vibration shifting.
Okay, yeah.
So how can we consciously create that shift throughout the day?
So it's not about ignoring problems or pretending that everything is perfect. It's more about cultivating a general sense of well-being, even when things are tough.
Exactly. Practices like gratitude meditation or spending time in nature can be so helpful here. They help us shift our focus from what's wrong to what's right, from lack to abundance. What are some things you do that help you feel more grounded and connected to that sense of well-being?
For me, starting the day with a few minutes of journaling, just writing down what I'm grateful for, it really sets a positive tone. Even on crazy busy days, that little practice makes a difference.
Those small, consistent practices are so powerful. And remember, feeling good doesn't have to be some huge, ecstatic experience. It can be as simple as enjoying a cup of coffee, appreciating a beautiful sunset, or listening to music that makes you want to move. What are some of those simple pleasures that light you up?
Oh, long walk with my dog, for sure. Or
Yeah.
baking something delicious.
Nice.
Little things like that can totally shift my mood. And the source material says, the more we practice feeling good, the easier it becomes, right? Like building a muscle.
It's exactly like that. Think of it like training for a marathon. At first, running a mile feels impossible. But with each run, it gets easier. Aligning with your vortex is similar. The more you practice those little shifts in your thinking and feeling, the more natural it becomes to stay in that flow of abundance.
So it's a positive feedback loop. The better we feel, the more good things we attract, which in turn makes us feel even better. And I love the marathon analogy. It reminds me that consistency is key. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up and doing the work, even when it feels challenging.
And even when it feels challenging, remember that momentum builds. Once we start moving in the direction of our desires, it gets easier to keep going. The universe loves momentum. It wants to support us in creating the lives we dream of.
It's like we're catching a wave and letting it carry us forward. And speaking of catching waves, there's another technique that the source material mentions that I'm curious about, segment intending. Can you explain what that is?
Absolutely. Segment intending is a powerful way to consciously direct our energy throughout the day, making sure that each part of our experience is aligned with the vibration of our vortex. It's like setting an intention for each segment of our day.
So if I'm understanding correctly, I might take a few moments before I start a task to visualize it going smoothly and successfully, Or I might set an intention to feel calm and centered during a challenging meeting. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. It's about bringing that intentional energy into every part of our lives. And the beauty of it is that it can be applied to any area, our relationships, finances, health, creative pursuits, anything that matters to us.
It's like we're taking control of the steering wheel instead of just being a passenger on the roller coaster of life.
That's a great way to put it. And the more we practice segment intending, the more we might notice that our days flow more smoothly. Manifestations happen faster, and we experience a greater sense of ease and well-being. What are some ways you think you could start experimenting with segment intending?
Well, I often feel rushed and scattered in the mornings, so I could definitely set an intention for a calmer, more grounded start to my day. And before meetings, I could visualize a positive, productive outcome.
Those are great examples. And remember, it's not about rigidly controlling everything, but about gently guiding our energy in the direction we want to go. It's a subtle yet powerful shift in how we approach our day-to-day experience.
This is so empowering. I'm really starting to grasp the power we have to shape our own reality. But even with all these techniques, it's important to acknowledge that there will still be times when we feel out of alignment, when we experience doubt, fear, or frustration.
Absolutely, we're human after all, and those challenging emotions are part of the contrast that helps us clarify our desires and expand our capacity for joy.
So it's not about never feeling negative emotions. It's about learning to navigate them skillfully so they don't throw us off course. Do you have any advice for how we can do that?
One thing that helps me is remembering that those difficult emotions are often a sign that I'm out of alignment with my vortex. It's like my internal guidance system, letting me know that it's time to pause and check in with myself and make some adjustments.
So it's about using those moments of discomfort as an opportunity for growth and course correction, not as a reason to beat ourselves up.
Exactly, and the source material reminds us that even when we're feeling off kilter, our vortex is still there waiting for us to return to its flow. It's like a homing beacon, always guiding us back to our well-being.
It's comforting to know that no matter how far we stray, that vortex is always there, ready to welcome us back. And the more we practice these techniques, the faster we'll be able to find our way back when we do veer off track.
It's like strengthening a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets. And the stronger our alignment muscle gets, the more resilient we become in the face of life's inevitable challenges.
So it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Right.
Which I find incredibly encouraging because it takes the pressure off. We don't have to do this perfectly. We just have to keep practicing, learning, and growing.
And remember, the universe is always supporting us even when we can't see it. The source material highlights that there are always cooperative components working behind the scenes to orchestrate our desires.
So it's about trusting the process even when we don't fully understand it.
And releasing the need to control every detail. It's about surrendering to the wisdom of the universe and allowing it to guide us to where we need to be.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of how to align with my vortex and manifest my desires. I'm really excited to delve into even more practical techniques in our final installment of this three-part series. What can our listeners look forward to next week?
Next week, we'll be exploring some specific tools and strategies that our listeners can use to start putting these principles into practice in their own lives. We'll talk about everything from creating vision boards to working with affirmations to tapping into the power of visualization.
I can't wait. It's one thing to understand these concepts, but it's another thing entirely to actually put them into practice. So be sure to tune in next week as we continue our deep dive into the vortex. Until then, keep playing with these ideas and see what unfolds in your life. Welcome back to Metaphysics Podcast for the final part of our deep dive into the vortex. This concept has really blown my mind wide open, and I'm excited to wrap things up with some practical tips our listeners can use to start playing with this idea in their own lives.
I love that you said play, because that's what this is all about, approaching it with curiosity and a sense of experimentation, allowing ourselves to have fun with it rather than getting too serious or rigid. So true, because when we're having fun, we're naturally vibrating at a higher frequency, which, as we've learned, is key to aligning with our vortex. So where do we start? What are some simple ways to inject more of that playful energy into this process?
One of the simplest yet most effective techniques is focusing on what we appreciate. It's about shifting our attention from what's wrong to what's right, from lack to abundance. What comes to mind for you when you think about shifting your focus in this way?
It sounds like we're talking about cultivating an attitude of gratitude, but how do we move beyond just thinking about things we're grateful for to actually feeling that gratitude on a deeper level?
That's a great question. The source material emphasizes that gratitude isn't just a feel-good emotion. It's a powerful, energetic force that can literally transform our reality. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we're aligning our vibration with the energy of abundance, which in turn attracts more things to be grateful for. It's like that snowball effect. And the more we practice gratitude, the more we start to notice all the amazing things that are already present in our lives,
Yeah.
things we might have taken for granted before.
Exactly. It's about training our brains to focus on the positive, to see the good in every situation. And as we do that, we naturally start to feel happier, more peaceful, and more aligned with our vortex.
I'm already feeling a shift just thinking about it. And the source materials suggest we can practice gratitude anytime, anywhere. It doesn't have to be some big formal ritual. We can just take a few moments throughout the day to appreciate the simple things: a warm cup of tea, a beautiful sunset, a kind gesture from a stranger.
Those small moments of appreciation can have such a profound impact on our vibration. And the more we practice, the more natural it becomes for you. What are some of those little things that you find yourself appreciating more and more as you cultivate this practice of gratitude?
Honestly, even just having a roof over my head and food on the table,
Mm.
it's easy to forget how fortunate I am. And I find that when I start my day with that awareness, that gratitude, it sets a really positive tone for the rest of the day.
That's a beautiful example, and it highlights how powerful it can be to shift our perspective, to focus on what we have rather than what we lack.
And speaking of powerful shifts, there's another technique that I've found really helpful for aligning with my vortex, and that's the idea of following my joy. What are your thoughts on this?
That's a wonderful one. It's about tuning into our inner guidance system and allowing ourselves to be led by what feels good. What does following your joy look like in your life?
It's about paying attention to those little nudges I get, those sparks of inspiration, those activities that make me feel alive and energized. Like if I have a free afternoon, do I want to spend it doing chores or doing something that truly lights me up? I like going for a hike or working on a creative project. The answer is pretty clear.
And the source material reminds us that our joy is our compass. It's always pointing us in the direction of our highest good, our most aligned path.
So if something feels like a drag, if it feels heavy or draining, maybe that's a sign to reconsider my involvement. It doesn't necessarily mean quitting my job or ending a relationship, but it might mean making some adjustments, finding ways to bring more joy and lightness into those areas of my life.
Exactly. Maybe it's about setting better boundaries, delegating tasks, or carving out more time for activities that bring you joy. It's about honoring your needs and making choices that are in alignment with your well-being.
And as we start following our joy, we'll likely find ourselves drawn towards opportunities and experiences that are in alignment with our vortex. It's like the universe is conspiring to support us, opening doors and creating synchronicities that lead us towards our desires.
It is like that. It's like riding a wave of serendipity. The more we trust our intuition and follow our joy, the more magical our lives can become.
It sounds like we're being encouraged to let go of the reins a little bit, surrender to the flow of life, and trust that the universe has our back. But that can be scary, right?
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who like to be in control.
It can definitely be scary to let go of control, but the source material reminds us that we're not alone in this journey. It emphasizes that we're always surrounded by a team of unseen helpers, guides, and angels who are always working in our favor.
It's like having a whole cheering section on the sidelines rooting for our success.
And they're just waiting for us to ask for their help. Do you ever find yourself reaching out to your spiritual support team for guidance? What does that look like for you?
Sometimes it's as simple as taking a moment to quiet my mind and ask for guidance. Other times it's more about connecting with nature, feeling that sense of grounding and support from the earth. And sometimes it's about reaching out to a trusted friend or mentor for support.
Those are all beautiful examples, and they highlight that we don't have to do this alone. There's so much support available to us if we're willing to ask for it.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've gained so much clarity and inspiration from exploring this vortex concept.
Me too. It's been such a joy to share these insights with our listeners and to witness their own journeys of awakening and expansion.
And remember, dear listeners, this is just the beginning. The vortex is always there, ready and waiting for you to step into its flow. The key is to keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep having fun with it.
And the more you align with the energy of your vortex, the more you'll experience the magic and abundance that life has to offer.
So go out there and create your own reality. And be sure to share your experiences and insights with us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, may you be blessed with an abundance of joy, love, and all the good things that life has to offer.
Thanks for joining us on Metaphysics Podcast.